The silence was a thick, suffocating blanket, heavy with unspoken rage. It started with a simple hum. The collective murmur of 100 proud families, swelling with pride under the midday sun. It was supposed to be a day of triumph, of honor, a medal ceremony for the heroes of our community. Then came her voice. A shard of glass in the quiet, shattering the moment with its shrill, self-righteous certainty. He cannot accept this award. It is a direct violation of our HOA bylaws. Section 4. Paragraph B. Subparagraph C. What was she talking about? Everyone turned to look. Their faces a mosaic of confusion. Then disbelief. A medal ceremony, tainted by a homeowners association. It was preposterous. Yet there she was. Karen, the HOA president. A force of nature in a bad mood. Her eyes fixed on Marcus, a young man who had lost both legs saving his neighbor's child from a fire. He was in a wheelchair, dressed in his finest suit. A small, hopeful smile on his face. A smile that was now rapidly fading. My breath hitched in my throat. Could this really be happening? Karen gestured dismissively toward the wheelchair. The bylaw clearly states that all personal property must be neatly stored and not visible from the street or any communal areas. This device is an eyesore. It was left on the sidewalk this morning, and he has now brought it onto a public lawn. This disrespects the integrity of our neighborhood and the sanctity of this event. The words were like a physical blow. The air went out of the crowd. A low rumble of outrage began to ripple through the audience. Marcus's mother, a fragile-looking woman named Elena, stepped forward, her hand trembling. "It's a wheelchair," she whispered, her voice cracking. It's how my son moves. I don't care what it is," Karen snapped, her voice rising. "A rule is a rule. There will be no exceptions. You must remove him and his thing from the premises immediately, or this ceremony will not proceed." The two Marine officers on stage, their chests adorned with ribbons, stood frozen, their faces a mix of professional stiffness and growing horror. They were caught between a public-facing authority figure and a man who deserved every ounce of respect. They knew the rules of decorum, but they also knew the rules of human decency. A painful, agonizing silence fell, broken only by a choked sob from Elena. My heart was pounding, a frantic drum against my ribs. I had to do something. Anything. I pushed my way to the front, my mind racing. "Karen. He's a war veteran," I blurted out, the words feeling clumsy and inadequate. She scoffed. "A dry, bitter sound. Irrelevant. This is a matter of community standards, not military service." But I saw something flicker in the eyes of one of the officers. A flicker of shame. A flicker of something close to defiance. Just as Karen was about to launch into another tirade, a new sound cut through the tense quiet. The sharp, rhythmic crunch of 8 pairs of boots on the gravel path. Everyone turned. 8 Marines, impeccably dressed in their dress blues, marched in formation. Their movements precise and synchronized. Their faces unreadable masks of discipline. My jaw dropped. Where did they come from? They stopped dead in their tracks, forming a tight, impenetrable line facing the stage. The commanding presence was undeniable. The crowd gasped. The air crackled with anticipation. The officer who had seemed conflicted, a young lieutenant, snapped a crisp salute. "Sir. Lieutenant Ramirez. Reporting for duty." The lead Marine, a grizzled master sergeant with a face that looked carved from granite, simply nodded. His eyes, however, swept over the scene, taking in the cowering mother, the crestfallen veteran, the preening HOA president. The master sergeant's voice, when he finally spoke, was a low rumble, but it carried to every corner of the park. "Lieutenant, explain this situation to me. I was under the impression this was a ceremony to honor a hero. It seems I was mistaken." The lieutenant's face went crimson. He stammered, trying to explain the situation with the bylaw, the president's demands, the impossible conflict. The master sergeant held up a hand. "I don't care about your bylaws, Lieutenant. I care about my men. And I care about our own." He then looked at the two officers on stage and said, "Sir, your mission is to honor this man." He then looked at the crowd. His gaze fell upon Marcus, who was now staring at the ground, a look of utter defeat on his face. The master sergeant's expression softened. "Son," he said, his voice surprisingly gentle. "You're a Marine, right?" Marcus nodded weakly. "Yes, Master Sergeant. Corporal Marcus Davis." "Corporal," the master sergeant repeated, his voice now strong and clear. "Stand tall. You've earned this." The master sergeant turned to Karen, his posture straightening even further. If that were possible. The woman who had been so full of bluster, who had wielded her power like a club, visibly shrank. "Ma'am," he began, the word a blade of ice. "This man served his country. He lost his legs protecting others. And you think a wheelchair is an eyesore. You think the rules of a neighborhood trumps the sacrifice of a hero." She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. The master sergeant didn't wait for a response. He turned to his men. "Marines," he commanded, his voice now a roar that echoed through the trees. "Escort this woman off the premises. Her behavior is an insult to everything this metal and this country stands for." The Marines, without a word, moved forward. Two of them, as if she were a piece of trash, gently but firmly took Karen by the arms. She shrieked, a sound of pure, unadulterated fury and disbelief. "You can't do this. I am the president of the HOA." But her words held no power here. The crowd, which had been so silent, erupted in applause. A wave of cheers and shouts of support that washed over the scene. Karen was dragged away, her protests fading into the distance. A final, pathetic echo. The master sergeant stepped forward and knelt on one knee in front of Marcus, taking the medal from the stunned lieutenant. "Corporal Davis," he said, pinning the medal to Marcus's jacket. "The United States Marine Corps doesn't give a damn about a chair. We care about the man in it. Thank you for your service. Now, stand tall, son." A tear, a single silver track, escaped Marcus's eye and slid down his cheek. He tried to stand, But his legs were gone. The master sergeant, without a second thought, looked at two of his Marines and nodded. They stepped forward and, with a silent understanding, lifted Marcus, chair and all, and placed him on the podium. The crowd gave a standing ovation. A roar of approval that felt like a healing balm. As the master sergeant finished the ceremony, I saw the two original officers, the lieutenant and his partner, standing at attention, their heads bowed. They had learned a lesson, not from a bylaw, but from a moral compass. The bitter taste of humiliation was a bitter pill for them to swallow. The bitter pill was a harsh, but necessary dose of reality. The crowd dispersed slowly. A collective sense of justice settling over us. The HOA president, the queen of petty power, had been dethroned not by a lawsuit or a petition, but by 8 Marines who understood the true meaning of honor. The sight of them, standing tall and proud, in front of a man who was once a Marine, was a powerful, unforgettable image. It was a reminder that some values are bigger than rules, bigger than pride, bigger than any homeowners association. As I walked away, I couldn't help but wonder. Where do we draw the line between following rules and doing what's right? Was the HOA president's behavior a simple matter of a rule follower? Or was it a deep-seated lack of humanity? Was the lieutenant wrong to hesitate? What would you have done if you were there? There is no right or wrong. Only right and wrong. I'd love to hear what you think.